The internet has allowed normal everyday people to make an income through sponsored advertisements. Although making money from home can be fun and exciting, these advertisements have gotten a few people in some very hot water. The reason being this is because some of these advertisements promote unhealthy habits and unrealistic lifestyles. But the majority of people who post these advertisements are labeled as influencers. Influencers are anybody with a somewhat large following, and they can range from any social media site from Instagram to YouTube. The options to being an influencer are endless, and influencer culture only keeps growing. One major event that sparked the interest of every influencer and their following was the occurrence of Fyre Fest. Fyre Fest was supposed to be a life-changing experience where all the famous celebrities would be at. But unfortunately, Fyre Fest turned into fire fraud.
Images, screen grabs, audio, video, and it invoked these images of the Hunger Games or Lord of the Flies.
The human brain is wired to be social through communication. With social media allowing us to excel at communication with thousands of people, it is only natural that there are particular followings and groupings. Once again, these followings are led by influencers, celebrities, or anyone who has somewhat of a credibility. For Fyre Fest to strategically use influencers in their advertising only gave them even more advertisement without trying because of the influencer followings. I won't go into detail on everything that went wrong with Fyre Fest, including fraud, lies, and scandals, but there were certain people that knew Fyre Fest wouldn't be what was promised, and no one tried to stop it. Influencers only fed the fire more with their perfect party lifestyles at festivals. This sense of wanting grew massively and only encouraged people to spend all their money on insanely priced Fyre Festival tickets. Again, no one ever tried to stop the fraud. Fyre Fest was selling something that did not exist, all because people who blindly followed influencers only wanted another experience just like Coachella, except more immersive. Fyre Fest is not only a scam to start out with, but it is a scam to cover up all other scams created by Billy McFarland. He is in trouble with wire fraud, but we as a society have even bigger problems with the fact that people will do whatever they're told from their favorite influencers can only become more of a problem in the future. One example as to why people shouldn't follow influencers blindly is because of their true nature and intent if they are only there to create money in their bank. One current example of influencer culture and someone who repeatedly goes to festivals such as Coachella is the mention of James Charles. James Charles was invited to the Met Gala and was one of the only influencers to be invited to the Met Gala formally. And as he posted saying, "I am so thankful for this opportunity as an influencer, and I believe it is such an amazing step forward for the influencers and our culture." A few days later, he ironically loses 3 million subscribers on YouTube, and thus holding a record for the most lost subscribers in 24 hours. Because of controversies and scandals that arise, influencers can portray them to be someone that they're not really, and they can build a following of 16 million people for their following to only be let down and disappointed. In other words, betrayed. They bought all their merchandise, all their products. You buy a $12,000 Fyre Fest ticket to only get to the festival and realize that was a mistake and that isn't actually happening. For James Charles following, it can be the same thing. They are disappointed in his lack of empathy and truthfulness, and they just leave. And that's what people at Fyre Fest did. They left. All in all, whether it is influencer culture in the form of festivals as a fashion party to be at, or famous YouTubers in the beauty community, either way, influencer culture is changing the way how we perceive social media and how we perceive higher figures. What we can do in the future to prevent influencers from taking over, especially making a big deal if they're invited to formal gatherings and saying that it's the right step in the direction for influencers, is beyond our control. Influencers are going to grow in whatever way they will. They're going to be torn down in whatever way they will, whatever next scandal will pop up, who knows. Fyre Fest is by far one of the main historical moments where influencers are portrayed in. Influencers get a really bad rep because of they just want to make money, and everyone wants to make money. But Fyre Fest was not a good way for influencers to be integrated. There are so many different influencers in our lives that we constantly talk about, whether it be in form of reference, memes, or merchandise. They surround us daily, whether they influence us on living a healthier lifestyle, buying more beauty products, or working out more. Influencers are always going to be there, and hopefully next time when a fraud pops up, people will be more bold to stop and stand up and say, please stop. I don't want to have a Fyre Fest 2.0. Bye, sisters.